Hello everyone. Today's presentation is about predicting Mandarin and Cantonese adult speakers' eye movement patterns in natural reading. My name is Junlin Li, and the background of our research is that eye movement immediately reflects how language is processed and comprehended in our mind during reading. And we can use computational language models to trace how language is predicted and represented during language processing. So we can investigate a very interesting or a question of primary interest in language processing, that is how language variation mediates eye movement patterns. So in this field or in this question, Chinese reading provides a very interesting tool to know how language variation occurs in eye movement patterns. So in Chinese, we have simplified and traditional Chinese characters. Each of these different writing or orthographic systems has its own advantage in terms of language processing. So we can suppose that simplified Chinese character is more easy to process because the orthographic complexity is reduced. However, we can also assume that traditional Chinese characters is easier to process because the transparency is well preserved. So just take this question as an example. We want to know more about how Chinese varieties differ with each other in the effect of various processing laws during reading. We can assume that Mandarin reading depends more on the context than Cantonese because the orthography is less transparent, and also because the word order is more flexible and the word length is more variable, which may hinders or inhibits a fast word segmentation in paraphobia, which is highly contingent on context effect. And we can also ask a question about how incremental language model is is more favorable than mass language model in tracing eye movement measures. Since there is a common supposition that the sentence reading is an incremental processing process. However, we know that there's a preview of upcoming words when we are fixating on the current word, and it is also not a new knowledge that there's a non-incremental integration of successive words that frequently emerges during natural reading. So from these observations, we can hypothesize that maybe GPT shows a generous advantage over BERT. However, BERT maybe on certain preview or non-incremental measures can exhibit, an advantage over GPT. So to answer the two basic questions of this research, we do eye movement experiments over 46 Mandarin native speakers and 45 Cantonese speakers. And we take the little prints as the reading material. And we extract or acquire duration measures and stochastic measures. And to predict duration and stochastic measures on word level, we engineered word length, stroke count, which are visual features, and word frequency, which is a lexical feature, and grammatical or morphosyntactic features such as part of speech and dependency passing features. And the key features of interest to this research are GPT-2 derived surprisal, entropy, attention, and Roberta derived surprisal, entropy, and attention. We want to observe how GPT-2 and Roberta differ from each other in terms of their performance on tracing the duration measures and stochastic measures we are interested in. So to compare GPT-2 and BERT or Roberta, and compare the usefulness of different features, we manipulate the language model used in regression and the feature bundles applied in regression. So we compare how GPT-2 and Roberta perform and and report the difference between GPT-2 and Roberta using t-test. And we also report how different compositions of features perform on predicting all the eye movement measures. And we use paired t-test to check whether the exclusion of certain feature or a given bundle of features will absolutely or will realistically reduce the performance of our regressor in terms of a given eye movement measure. So here comes our general result. So here is all the eye movement measures we are using, and here are all the feature groups we are interested in, and here we list which model is better in predicting a given eye movement measure in a given language. So from the general results, we identify three interesting findings. The first is that Mandarin reading features a larger entropy effect. So we can check from first landing position, standardized first landing position, and we found that Mandarin has a significant entropy effect exhibited in the observation that if we do not include entropy, there will be a significant reduction of model performance. And on the other side, we found there's a larger surprisal effect in Cantonese in the same way. For example, if we do not include surprisal, there will be a less good, will be a, a weaker predictive power of our regressor. Again, it's first landing position in Cantonese. And the second observation is that there is a pervasive GPT advantage over BERT or Roberta in most of the eye movement measures, except for first landing position and the targeting of first and the probability of first regression out probability and the frequency of first pass regression out, which are generally regression related measures. So this indicate that there is a BERT advantage in terms of landing position and regression targeting. And finally, we found that if we include the embedding into regression, there's a pervasive BERT advantage instead of a GPT advantage. And we purposefully do a PCA analysis over the usefulness of different bundles of features in terms of or against the model performance over Cantonese and Mandarin. And we plot the PCA results onto this figure. So from this figure, it is quite clear that Cantonese reading is more sensitive to surprisal effect. And on the other side, Mandarin reading is more sensitive to entropy effect. So the major conclusions of this research is that surprisal and entropy effect reflect a major divergence distinguishing Mandarin and Cantonese reading. And another conclusion is that GPT-derived perceptual factors outperform the BERT-derived ones in predicting most of the eye movement measures. However, it is intriguing to note that BERT-derived factors show an advantage in tracing first landing position and regression targeting. So this implies that there is a maybe there's a long distance preview in first landing position for Cantonese reading, or there's a strong non-incremental processing for Mandarin reading. So that's all for today's presentation. Thanks for your listening.